end this once and for all. Together.
This isn't like one of your campaigns. Not this time. He's planning to end our world.
We stay true to ourselves. Stay true. No matter the cost.
Forever. Let's end this, kid.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my Stranger Things Season 5 trailer for Volume 2. It's episodes 5, 6, and 7. So there's a bunch of footage that we've already gotten for the rest of the episodes. There's a bunch of Easter eggs here and a bunch of plot threads that they set up at the end of Volume 1 that they have to pay off, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. There was also a YouTube issue with my previous episode video. They're in the middle of fixing that, but usually it takes them a while to do that, so sometimes it's just easier to re-upload the video. So after this video, make sure to go watch the new version of my episode video again. Right after the season dropped, the Duffers actually did an interview with a couple Hollywood trades explaining some really big plot details, like Will's powers and how they work. The Duffers said that Will's powers are fundamentally meant to be different from Eleven and Kali's powers in that he can only control the hive, so they'll probably mostly be using him for crowd control. Dealing with the army of Demogorgons, Demodogs, Demobats inside the Upside Down, or if they break back into the right side up, the way that you see him at the end of episode 4, doing that, but inside the Upside Down on a larger scale. This means that Eleven and Kali will probably be more useful in trying to deal with Vecna directly, so it'll be like a three-pronged attack with the three of them using their powers together against Vecna. This also clarifies the question about who is now the most powerful character on the show. It's still technically meant to be Vecna. He's able to overpower Eleven by herself, which is why they need to team up with Kali and Will, the three of them teaming up against Vecna to defeat him. So even though they make Will seem super OP at the end of episode 4, he's not meant to be god tier powerful. He can only control the Horde right now. There were also a number of moments during episode 3 and episode 4 where they reference the Stranger Things First Shadow stage play in Vecna's true backstory. We will dig into that later in the video once we go through this brand new footage because I think they offer some clues about how they're going to end the actual series.
More than scared, he was terrified.
Going through all the brand new footage that we haven't seen in episodes yet, so this is all probably from episodes 5, 6, and 7. I don't think that we're seeing any footage from the actual finale, episode 8. There's a brand new scene of the team and Will now inside their basement planning for another attack inside the Upside Down to try and recover Holly and all the other kids that Vecna just took at the end of episode 4. Based on a couple of details from the first 4 episodes and some of this brand new footage, I believe that Vecna's lair where he took the kids and put them in those tubes, the special spikes that you see here, in this weird looking thing that Will drew, I think this is meant to be inside Hawkins' laboratory, inside the Upside Down, which is also meant to be the center of where this giant flesh wall is. That flesh wall is probably there for the express purposes of protecting Vecna in this area here with this special thing that he's creating that Will just drew. Vecna also told Will that he plans on changing all these kids the way that he tried to change him and using them as vessels for himself, basically expanding his power. There's another brand new scene of Mike and Nancy getting worried and then Mike talking to Eleven as she goes back in her hot tub time machine to actually go inside her mind space and try to find Vecna inside his space, which, like I said, is probably in Hawkins' National Laboratory. Then Eleven tells Mike this isn't like one of your Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. The ironic thing about that is this is exactly like one of his Dungeons & Dragons campaigns, and Will, like another Dungeon Master, has powers now, so it's actually turning into more like a real-life version of Dungeons & Dragons with way higher stakes. There have even been a lot of number theories about the dice roll that they actually have to win from previous seasons that teased how they're going to defeat Vecna, with Kali plus 11 plus Will against Vecna. So even though Eleven is trying to tell Mike that this isn't meant to be a game, this is actually real stakes, it does adhere to a lot of Dungeons & Dragons tropes. There's another scene inside the Upside Down where you see John and Nancy staring up at Hawkins' National Laboratory as this giant tear opens up in the sky, like it's way worse than the rips and dimensional tears that we've seen before. There are a lot of theories about Vecna's true goal here, and if this has anything to do with the Mind Flayer, like is this the Mind Flayer's true goal at work through Vecna? We'll get into this when we talk about the Stranger Things First Shadow stage play. But it just seems like he's trying to tear down the barrier between dimensions so that everything turns into the Upside Down, like the Upside Down absorbs the regular dimension. We've already seen the Demogorgons being able to tear holes through dimensions really easily like tissue paper, so the barrier between both dimensions is very, very weak. This is what seems like the Mind Flayer using the communications tower for some reason. Not totally clear what's going on here, maybe broadcasting its signal even further. We get a little scene of Dustin hugging Steve. I know everybody's worried about Steve Harrington. When we see the explosion on top of Hawkins National Laboratory, I think this is meant to be connected to what Jonathan and Nancy were seeing with the dimensional tear opening up here. There's a scene of Jonathan and Nancy crying. It seems like in a good kind of cry, like things aren't that bad here. They're just really emotional. This might be when he tries to actually propose marriage to her. Remember, he has that ring, so he's planning on proposing to her at some point. Maybe this is good news for them. We will see. There's another scene of Nancy firing on the military here inside their base. This might be inside the Upside Down. They might be trying to save Eleven and Kali here, help them out. You remember the last we saw, they were still inside that base in the Upside Down. Not totally clear what Dustin and the others are seeing here when they stare at the sky all scared, but then they show this footage of the lightning crackling through the sky where you can't quite tell where the ground is, like what is up and what is down, what is this space here? This is kind of what the Upside Down looked like when Eleven pushed Henry through for the first time and he got trapped in the Upside Down and then met the Mind Flayer again. Maybe this just has something to do with that explosion that goes off over Hawkins National Laboratory in the Upside Down, where you see like the dimensional tear open up between dimensions. There's another scene of everybody hugging in what seems like the hospital. Maybe this has something to do with Max or with Karen, who remember is still in the hospital as of the end of episode 4 as well. There's another scene of Eleven. I think this is meant to be inside the Upside Down. There's debris just flying all around her, and she's using her telekinesis to just push it past her. This is probably during some big final boss fight against Vecna during the second block of episodes, like maybe episode 7 stuff. It really does seem like things have hit the metaphorical and literal fan during this. It seems like there's some kind of giant explosion here against the military. It seems like these are all military soldiers here inside this room. Then we get a scene of Lucas taking the still comatose Max and trying to save her from the Demogorgons who have come to her hospital room. This probably has something to do with Vecna trying to go after Max, who's trying to get Holly Wheeler to actually work against him. So remember, at the end of episode 4, Max and Holly are still trying to break back into the real world, and Vecna was trying to keep Holly trapped inside his mind palace. We don't know if Max has been able to communicate with Lucas in the real world or anything like that, but he probably just senses the Demogorgons coming and tries to save her without really knowing why they're coming after her. But that's probably why, because of everything she's trying to do with Holly. There's a longer scene of Jonathan and Nancy having a heartfelt conversation. This is probably more about their whole relationship. Then you see Eleven put her mask back on. And we get Hopper telling Eleven to finish this as she climbs back in the tub and tries to go back into her mind space to try and deal with Vecna and save all the kids. Here's where we get to all the really important details from the Stranger Things First Shadow stage play that explains some of the big Easter eggs and reveals from episode 4 in Vecna's real backstory and why he was afraid of Max's mystery cave in the Nevada desert area. This will also figure into some of the things that Erica's teacher, Mr. Clark, said about wormholes, too, in time travel and travel between dimensions.
Another galaxy, another time, even.
Everything is connected. They've been setting stuff up through all the first 4 episodes. If you haven't seen the Stranger Things First Shadow stage play, it's only on Broadway. It was playing in London for a while too. There's the only place where you can actually get that story, so it's weird that it's so important for what's happening during Stranger Things Season 5. It's meant to explain the origin of Henry Creel, how he got his powers, and how he became Vecna. What it reveals is that the caves that Max was hiding in, that Henry Creel was afraid to go in, are the place where he originally got his powers. These were meant to be in the Nevada desert near where his family was living. He got lost in them one day, and in the caves was remnants of the military's Philadelphia experiment. So if you're not familiar with the Philadelphia experiment, it was the military trying to experiment in teleportation. This is where they invoke a lot of Mr. Clark's Easter eggs in his lesson on wormholes too. Erica would be so happy. During the play, they don't completely explain this, but something happens. It seems like he got into an accident with the Philadelphia experiment remnants, and that teleported him to another dimension called Dimension X. They explained during the play, it's not meant to be the Upside Down. It's a completely different dimension where he was lost for 12 hours, then came back mysteriously with his powers in a different blood type under the heavy control of the Mind Flayer. So what they're implying is that it was the Mind Flayer in another dimension that gave Henry Creel his initial psychic powers. Then when he comes back, Dr. Brenner initially finds him using the telescope, which we actually see Holly Wheeler use when she goes to the caves. Young Dr. Brenner then sees that Henry Creel has powers and tries to weaponize that and recreate him using blood transfusions, using Henry Creel's blood for other women, which is how Eleven and Kali got their powers too. Their mothers were given the transfusions. So part of the ideas they're implying is that the Mind Flayer has always been around and existed long before Henry Creel had powers, and he's the one who created Vecna and not the other way around, as Season 4 seemingly implied. What I'm expecting them to do during the Volume 2 episodes is sort of clarify this and why he was afraid. Like, oh, he ran into this Philadelphia experiment stuff, was accidentally teleported to this alternate dimension, encountered the Mind Flayer, gave him powers, took over his mind, like dominated his mind, and then set him on this path to become evil. Because a big part of the stage play is actually explained that Henry Creel was like a nice normal boy before he was teleported to this alternate dimension and ran into the Mind Flayer and got powers. There are also a number of Easter eggs during one of Max's other flashbacks where she travels to 1959 at Hawkins' school. It's meant to be Henry Creel at school, but it's all these older versions of the adult characters in present day, like Steve Harrington's father, an older version of Joyce, and during that, they're actually putting on a stage production at the high school of The Dark of the Moon, which Henry is trying to be part of.
I was in another time. Hawkins.
While the school is trying to put on that stage play of Dark of the Moon, Henry's trying to deal with his newfound psychic powers while also trying to find acceptance, just in general, where he falls in love with his co-star, Patty Newby, another character. So this is why a lot of people perked up when Joyce was yelling at Vecna and he was coming for Will, because technically they went to school together and she would know Henry Creel. She just doesn't realize that the person she's staring at is the same boy that she went to school with. Really, the more important thing, I think, though, is what happened inside the cave to teleport him to the other dimension and what happened between him and the Mind Flayer where he got powers and his blood type changed and then he came back under the heavy control of the Mind Flayer. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and if there's any Easter eggs or references you spotted in the footage or questions you had that I didn't address in this video, just write them below in the comments. What'll probably happen is that Netflix will drop another Volume 2 trailer in the next couple of days. When they do, I will do another video with the new footage. Make sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Click here for my full Stranger Things Volume 1, Episodes 1 through 4 video, and click here for all my other episode videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.